Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Meet the Musicians in Your Neighborhood, coming live to you from Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. Now, before I introduce our guest tonight, I just want to draw your attention to the SSO's Facebook page and other social media, where we're highlighting and showcasing underrepresented composers and music that you might not ever have heard, but is well worth the time to get to know and to enjoy, because it is incredible music and special music that should be heard more. For example, Jesse Montgomery, George Walker, Undine Smith-Moore, and many, many others. So please go over to those pages, take a listen, and you won't be disappointed for sure. Now, June is regularly in Saskatoon Opera Month, the big production by the Saskatoon Opera. And so I thought it'd be nice to bring on singers in June and to highlight some people that we've worked with in the past and that we're going to work with the SSO in the future. So please welcome Emma Johnston. How are you?
Hi, I'm great, Eric. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very proud and excited to be part of this online interview series. So very happy to be here.
And where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Regina, so right in Saskatchewan here, not too far away from yourself.
Okay. And you were born and raised in Regina, right?
That's right. Born and raised, prairie girl.
Nice. And did you go away to university? What was your education?
I did. So right after high school graduation, I decided to pursue a Bachelor of Voice Performance at the University of Toronto. And so I was out there for 4 years, completing my bachelor's degree. Amazing experience, where I actually got to see my first live opera. So yes, Toronto has a very near and dear place in my heart. And after that, I moved over to Winnipeg, where I completed my Master's of Music a year ago last spring. So I kind of made my way back home, and I'm back in Regina for the time being, and just planning ahead, seeing where the next year or so takes us.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way of putting it. Takes all of us. We don't know. There's a lot of questions, but we'll traverse those all together, and something wonderful will happen. We will definitely make music in one way or the other and continue that. Now, we met through opera, and 3 years ago was the Don Giovanni production here at Saskatoon Opera, and you were Zerlina in that production.
Yes. So my first, I guess, opera role debut in Saskatchewan, lucky me, was Saskatoon Opera. So that was 3 years ago already. Oh my goodness.
It was.
I can't believe that. And that was such an amazing experience. I think, Saskatchewan is so fortunate to have a city that fosters the creativity and production of operas. And Don Giovanni, definitely one of my favorite Mozart scores. Lots of diverse characters and storylines, and lots of action happening. So it was definitely a wonderful production to be a part of, and a great experience, not only with the whole production team, yourself, and my colleagues, but just getting to experience the support of the local audiences in Saskatoon, and having people come in from outside of the city to see great work and be a part of that music. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty special that Saskatoon Opera is here to showcase opera in Saskatchewan, and it's unfortunate that we don't get to do or they don't get to do a production this year. But talking about Don Giovanni, and you mentioned the different diverse characters, and we know that Don Giovanni has its dark side and its lighter side. You, along with Brendan, played a couple. They're the characters that Mozart often put in for comic relief, but also to showcase the different classes. And we are in turbulent times at the moment, and we talked about this just before we went live about what's going on in the world. And do you have a take on what music, is there a responsibility? Is there some sort of what do you feel about opera and music in terms of stories and messages getting out there?
Well, I think as performers, musicians and artists in general, we hold a tremendous responsibility, especially in the context of opera, which is sometimes, very dated. Storylines are old. There are stereotypes conveyed that don't necessarily agree with what we as a society now see, particularly in female characters. And so I think when you look at producing operas like Don Giovanni, opera companies and singers, conductors, and all the like have a real opportunity to showcase those characters, the emotions, and their experiences in a different light, from a different perspective. And that was essentially what we did when we did Saskatchewan Opera's Don Giovanni. So I think there's a real opportunity there to communicate with audiences and be able to show these immensely contrasting perspectives from different characters and their sort of emotional and musical trajectory throughout the pieces. So I think when it comes to some of what, well, the essence of what we're dealing with right now, I think it is especially important for artists, opera companies to align with the action, with what is going on, and for not just, companies as a whole, but individuals, each individual aspect, person, employee of those productions, to really ask themselves what it means to be involved in conveying certain messages and how they want to communicate that, and why it is so important to showcase different stories from different perspectives and in a different light than how they were originally conveyed. I think that is so important.
And I think what you said about we have to ask ourselves. We have to ask ourselves. We have to ask the community. We have to ask so many questions because we're always learning. We're always learning about all things that contribute to our communities, that contribute to our art. And you, as a singer, you're a communicator. You literally communicate text and voice, of course, singing to an audience. So there's another level to that. Absolutely.
And I think especially with opera in particular, when you're often communicating in a different language from your audience, there are subtitles usually, of course, but I think more than anything, it's important to convey your thought and intentions through your movement and the music. Essentially, I think a lot can be felt. I think about when I come to the symphony, right, and a work is being played, and how that emotion is conveyed. And so I think as a singer, it is so important to approach the text that you're singing. I mean, even if it's in a different language, from a few different views, especially depending on what it is, whether it's art song or a role in an opera. I think it's so important to have subtext and to really ensure that comes across, again, with your intentions and with what maybe that character means to you, how you relate to that individual and the text itself and what's happening in the moment.
We're humans full of emotion and different ways of conveying things, and that happens in art and opera and all art forms. And so when you say, sure, the production might be going a different way or this way, and the director wants this, the conductor wants that, but you bring yourself to it all of the time. And if your experience in life is in a certain way, or you're asking questions, that always adds to something. Like you said, orchestral music, which I mostly do, there can be multiple intentions in how we do it. And with opera and voice, there's another extra layer to that. We're already getting some wonderful questions coming in. Jardina says, "Hi, Emma. Nice to see you." Oh, you see the comments there too. Which
Yes.
living singers inspire you, and who do you love to listen to? This is a great question because we talked about this just before we went on air.
Yes. So, yes, we were talking about this. And I was telling you, Eric, that my favorite opera is La Traviata. And that was the production scheduled for this year. And so I was telling you, I had the immense privilege of seeing Angel Blue in her role debut as Violetta with Manitoba Opera a few years ago. And she is just a force of nature, one of the most phenomenal singers I've had the privilege of seeing live. So she is definitely very high up on my list. Lisette Orpeza.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Huge inspiration. I believe she was the recipient of the Richard Tucker Award this last year. So I've been keeping an eye out on her. And she also did Violetta at the Met.
That's right. And she has a wonderful YouTube channel, doesn't she? Where
yes,
she discusses not only her roles in opera, but so much of life and social issues. And it's a kind of a rabbit hole once you get into there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she is definitely a really good source for all things singing, but also just general knowledge about, how you deal with certain obstacles in the music industry, and how overall she has sort of analyzed and refined her process, which I find is invaluable, because there's no better person to learn from than someone who is in the industry in the moment, as we see, vastly changing, different things coming to light. And again, really, really important changes being encouraged, especially right now, which I think is so important. So Lisette, Angel, and Nadine Sierra is another huge favorite of mine. I find I really enjoy watching and listening to her, because I hear a lot of similarities maybe in our Fox, and so I like to look to her, just watching her and observing sort of what she does and the choices she makes, and always with the singers, I'm watching their intentions and how, as we were saying, how they've approached the text and what I see being conveyed, not just from a character's point of view, but what I can see is them bringing themselves, a very personal part of their emotions to that. So yeah, definitely huge for me. Oh, great! I'm just looking at the comments.
Yeah, there's more as well, and it's you seem to be inspired by people with intention, and I think those performers really connect to audiences in such a way, and there's a more depth to it, I suppose, and with that intention. And you saw Megan's question there. Do you have any recommendations for audiences that think they aren't ready for anything beyond the classics? What are some good gateway works to expand our understanding of what classical music / opera is and can be? Great question, Megan.
Oh, that's a fantastic question. That's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
I think, just as thinking of it from a personal perspective, I mean, there are so many great initiatives happening right now. One that I can think of off the top of my head is Against the Grain Theatre. They did a live, La Boheme opera in pubs tour across the Western Canada, really, this last fall. So I think there are so many. This is really only answering and commenting on one part of that really great question, but I think just seeking out those performance initiatives and opportunities to view, maybe classical music and opera in a more modern setting. That is one of so many ways that, I've encouraged colleagues here in Regina who have, for instance, never been to the symphony or never seen an opera to really get out there and experience it, because I don't think people realize how relatable some of the stories and the music still are. I think there's, again, like we were talking about a lot of power behind the direction of certain operas, productions, and stories that can really, really draw people in a way that to them, I suppose, would be sort of surprising or unconventional. And I think some good gateway works. I mean, really, you think of the classics and you look at Mozart. I mean, for me, you look at Verdi, and I think that, I don't know, I suppose maybe looking into some, say, operetta-based works as opposed to, opera, grand opera as a whole to start out would be a really nice way of kind of getting into the genre, or sort of coming to understand, the arc of the works and the music. And people would be surprised, you're drawn in, and whether it's something like Gilbert and Sullivan to, Menotti, and those are two composers which, would be an example of English operettas, whether you want to approach it from a language perspective. I think those are a few good ways, just seeking out projects, performances, and initiatives sort of in your city locally is a great way to kind of get your foot in the door as an audience member and a fan of the genre.
And like you say, people are usually surprised how much they enjoy it, and are surprised by the whole experience, because often it's just that initial getting over that barrier, whether it's they're intimidated, whether they just assume they're not going to like it, or that it's going to be something so out of their ordinary experience. And when they actually do experience, I mean, you and I'm sure I've heard it so many times where first timers will come up after a performance and say, "My goodness, I never knew I would enjoy this, and I never knew how this could be experienced." And so, just like you say, diving in, get your foot in the door, and go from there. Mark was there with your triumphant, what was it? I've got one of the banners here. I want to try this out. Last summer, you were the grand award winner at the National Music Festival, which was held right here in Saskatchewan. And Mark, the winning performance that you had, which was stunning, I was actually on the jury, full disclosure, was Try Me Good King. How did you approach that set? And how did you so vividly bring it to life?
Well, so Try Me Good King. That's another really terrific question. I mean, I could talk about Libby Larsen, Try Me Good King, the wives of King Henry VIII, and Tudor history as a whole all evening. But what had happened for me with Try Me Good King was I knew it was a cycle. I wanted to sing essentially my entire post-secondary education, and so, I worked hard and I waited until I was finally given the go-ahead. Okay, you can perform this for your graduating master's recital. It can be a part of your program. And so I think what made Try Me Good King so effective in my mind and in the way I portrayed it was I took the time. I didn't even crack the score. I read as much as I could about each of the women who I was conveying. I think it was a powerful sort of task for me, because I felt responsible to be the best medium for their voices and their stories as I could be. And so I think really delving into their stories and the details of the kind of women that they were, and the sort of relationship they had with a man who was obviously very tyrannical and powerful and cruel, was a huge emotional task for me. So in all honesty, once I had a concrete understanding of the women and how Libby had written them in the context of their last words and their stories, the music sort of just came. And I found that, as challenging as it was to sing, as long as I remained faithful to the text and what I was trying to say, it was just sort of a ride that I got to be a part of, and truly a moment every time I sang that set. I was completely transported. And so I don't think I did much. I think it was a combination of the words that Libby Larson so carefully picked, and set to music that I think completely conveyed the power and the emotion of all five women. So it was truly just a really, really big privilege for me to be able to not only perform that on my graduating recital, but to bring it to nationals, which happened to be held in Saskatchewan last summer. So that, I think, also sort of fueled the passion for the performance, and to really share it with my family and friends and the Saskatchewan music community. So.
And that's how it felt. You were sharing it with us. And yeah, you're modest in terms of course you did so much, but it was a natural feeling. You were those characters, and it was so powerful. The whole jury was just blown away by the authenticity of it and how you encompassed the women, but also Libby's music and what she was, the intention, what she was trying to say. And so it wasn't you doing something for intention. It just was. And that was very, very powerful and well-deserved grand prize award winner. And it was so nice that someone from Saskatchewan won it here in Saskatoon, where it's held, for those of you who don't know, it's held in different places every year across Canada. Ella says, hello, Emma. I'd like to know about the beginnings of your love affair with opera. Yeah, when did that start?
Oh, what a great question. I started taking voice lessons at a very young age, and my teacher, Diana Woolrich, she didn't really tell me I was singing opera. She sort of just gave me one really great song after another, and that sort of began from, grade 8 on until grade 10 or 11. And then, I started singing things like Zerlina, for instance, and a few operetta pieces. And it just the feeling, the feeling of singing that kind of music, the fun, the energy behind it. I think that's really what got me on to saying to myself, well, what else can I sing in my life? What other operas are there? What does a whole opera look and sound like? Who would I be singing with? And there's other voices that could go well with mine, and just sort of getting into that, because I wasn't really aware of the whole opera industry. I just knew singing was something I wanted to do. And so I believe it was when the Metropolitan Opera first started doing their live and HD broadcasts. Right. The first of which I saw was Don Giovanni. So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I went to see it live in theaters, and I just remember being sort of floored. I just thought, oh my gosh, like that small aria that I sang is a part of that. And it was just something that opened my whole world, hearing the orchestra, hearing, I suppose, the full product was just something that I couldn't wait to do more of. And so as I was encouraged to pursue singing after high school, I thought, okay, yeah, this is something I love. This is what I want to do. And when I first saw the first live opera I saw, Canadian Opera Company, they did Die Fledermaus.
Okay.
So I suppose something that technically qualifies in the opera and operetta genres. And so that was so much fun to watch, that production. I remember going to my teacher the following week and saying, I want to sing Mein Herr Marquis. I have to sing it. And looking back on those days, it's almost, singing things and then being told, oh, you have to wait to sing this and you have to hold off. You'll be able to sing that one day, just not right now, was sort of something that made me say, okay, I want to sing. I want to get better. I want to sing as many opera pieces as I can until I can sing that one. It was just sort of an ongoing love of every music that I got to study. Yeah. And just realizing, oh, okay, this is something people dedicate their heart and souls to. And I think I'd like to do that. So,
Well, that's definitely a love affair with it. That's exciting. And Karen wants to know, talking about a love affair with opera, what was your favorite, what's been your favorite role to play so far? And what would be What would be one of your top roles? Of course, there's so many. I'm sure you'd love to sing.
So probably it's a tough choose, but I think that if I'm thinking, and I want to be totally honest from a music and character perspective, I'd have to say, yeah, La Bohème.
Okay.
Musetta. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, so I technically haven't performed that role in a production. I did it as a role study in my master's degree, which I had the privilege of doing with my teachers, who have both performed the role. And so, yeah, Musetta, very sassy, very dramatic, but she also gets to sing lots of high notes and kind of be the second soprano at the center of attention, kind of distracting from me. If anyone saw Saskatchewan Opera's La Bohème, you'll know exactly what I mean. A friend of mine, Andrea Lett, just knocked that out of the park. Just, she did. If you saw it, you'll know why I love to sing it. So, that has hands down been, that's a role that I really crave to be able to perform on the stage in the full, costumes with Marcello, that sort of thing, because another favorite opera of mine, of course, La Bohème, would be an amazing thing to be a part of, not only as Musetta, but I would love to be in a production where I could watch a navigate Mimi, because that is a big dream role of mine, along with Violetta from La Traviata, but not sure how long down the road that is. It may be quite some time, it may be never, but it's definitely something I have sort of at the forefront of my mind when I'm practicing some of the other roles and just working in what I think would be the right approach to some of the more expansive lyric lines that they have to sing. And so, yeah, definitely two dream roles, Mimi, Violetta, and those were probably my top two. And I just love to sing. So
right. That's those are two juicy roles. Wonderful stuff. And you mentioned Andrea. Andrea's going to be on a program coming up, which yes, that was a great production of Bohème. And Shelby from that production says, hello, Emma. Do you remember Shelby Lynn? Yeah, she says a big hello. And so does Noreen, says hello, Noreen Johnson. And Karen wants to know, do you have any funny stories about stage mishaps? In the opera world, there's always something backstage that might go a bit, might not go according to plan. Do you have any of those stories?
Always something. Well, I think there were a few. Don Giovanni, what was a good one? Well, in one of the productions, I can't remember if it was the third show. It was during Vedrai Carino. So of course, Brendan and I were on stage. I was feeling sorry for him. He had just been beaten up by Don Giovanni and Leporello, and I was leading him off stage. I think he was wearing a hat, and I think I had accidentally knocked it off, and I kind of had to play it cool and kind of pick it up flirtatiously and continue on with the scene. I'm not graceful with props. That seems to be my one major struggle area. Just however many times it's rehearsed, something always seems to happen, whether it's like a hat falling off my head or a heel of my character's shoe breaking. That has definitely happened to me.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, that was, when did that happen? Yeah, it was a strap or a heel, something important on the shoe. Okay. And I think that was when in my undergrad, I was a chorus member when the U of T Opera School did HMS Pinafore. Yes. Okay. Yes, we were dancing, long dresses, full costumes, and my shoe just broke essentially. And my stage partner was kind enough to kind of discreetly lead me off stage, remedy the situation, and then we just joined right back in. So it's magic. Yeah. It's
magic, and the show must always go on. And that's what I love. That's what I love about live performance, because there's always mishaps. There's always something that happens, and how, especially in opera, how the singers deal with it. And often they put an extra line in to make it work within the scene. That's some of favorite memories. And Brendan Friesen is on, who will be on next week, says, "Oh, the memories, definitely." Because you were a couple in Don Giovanni.
Yes.
There's a great question that was a bit earlier. Susie wants to know, what opera house is top of your performance bucket list?
Oh, what opera house is at the top of my performance bucket list? Well, the Met, of course. I feel like that's a big dream, lifelong dream for a lot of singers. I've known a few singers who have had the privilege to sing there, and they say it's like nothing else. So that is definitely at the top of my list, as well as the Royal Opera
in London. Yeah,
that's a big one. I had the privilege. I went to London last September, I believe it was, and there weren't any operas going on. We were kind of there end of the season, pre next season, and so I didn't get a chance to see an opera there, but it is definitely on my bucket list.
Nice.
Absolutely.
And Ella wants to know, did you have something that's always intrigued her? Did you actually have to learn foreign languages to be able to tackle a lot of those librettos?
Yeah, so throughout university, I took quite a few language courses. In high school, I had taken a few years of German, so that was a language I tried to really dedicate myself to. And what else? Yeah, I took Italian, French, German, Czech was pretty much self-taught, but yeah, definitely learning the language is something that will benefit any singer. Completely, right? So as much as I'd like to say I'm fluent in every language I sing in, I can't, but definitely conversationally, the more comfortable you get, the easier it is, not necessarily from a pronunciation standpoint. I always found I was really passionate about learning the pronunciation of words, studying the IPA, whatever. But I think having the languages under your belt from a translation standpoint and from a textual standpoint is definitely hugely beneficial. And so, yeah, I did approach it from a language class perspective, but the great thing about languages is you can kind of work on them throughout your whole life, right? And as you're focusing, say, on one Italian role, you can kind of go back and refresh. And, eventually the dream is to, be singing in so many different locations that it's useful to know the languages, right? Wherever you go, not only from a, music standpoint, but a collaboration standpoint. So. Exactly.
So if you're doing, Italian opera in Rome, then you can, hang out in the cafes or talk to the director. Right. You happen to be Italian and also sing the role.
Exactly. And then your double consonants are guaranteed.
Yes, all those vocal coaches are always on singers for all the different things. We're about wrapping it up here. It's about just after 7:30. But Megan wants to know what's next for you. I know it's very much up in the air, but looking forward, what's next for you?
Well, this fall, I had planned to do young artist program auditions and applications. So that was the next thing on my list. That is tentatively now all up in the air. So you know what? For right now, it's kind of just a waiting game. I think once everything that is going on has passed, a lot of companies and the classical music community in general will probably be much more open to approaching things from a different accessibility standpoint. I'm not really sure how to explain it, but I definitely plan on still doing those auditions once travel restrictions lift and opera companies are comfortable having singers come in and audition. That's a big dream of mine is to at least do, those 1 or 2 years of those audition circuits. And then hopefully from there, I would love to apprentice at an opera house. So it's a matter of, I guess, where that opportunity will present itself in the next couple of years. So.
Well, you have a bright future ahead of you, Emma. I've always loved your singing, and I can't wait to hear, your next steps and what happens in the future. And before we wrap up, I want to thank the Saskatchewan Orchestrals Association for making these live chats possible, and to all of you audience out there who ask these wonderful questions. And thank you, Emma, and thank you to everyone. And join us next week. We're going to have more singers on the program and also composers down the road. So join us then, and everyone have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.